So hey there, Cyberworld. I'm Punk, and mostly I just talk shit, but right now I'm gonna get serious. This is a very important issue I'm about to talk about, and is something that I feel very strongly about even. I'm gonna talk about mental illnesses. Now, when most people think mental illness, it's mostly depression, maybe anxiety, and while these are still important illnesses, they aren't the only ones. And in this video, I'm going to go in depth on mental illnesses. Mental illnesses include anxiety conditions, mood disorders, personality disorders, psychotic disorders, and eating disorders. Mood disorders include depression and bipolar. Depression is effectively feeling intense sadness for a long time without any reason, can cause problems in behavior, feelings, and thoughts of those affected, and also serious physical effects. There are many different types of depression, and treatment varies person to person. Bipolar disorder used to be called manic depression. It causes periods of depression and periods of mania, which is effectively the opposite of depression. Bipolar is most closely linked to family history and is often misdiagnosed as depression, substance abuse, ADHD, or schizophrenia. Anxiety disorders include generalized anxiety, social anxiety or social phobia, obsessive compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and panic disorder. Generalized anxiety causes people to feel anxious or worried most of the time without reason. These feelings are intense, persistent, and can interfere with daily life and can also relate to any aspect of life. Social anxiety or social phobia causes people to feel intense anxiety and fear over social situations or public performances. It can also be more specific, causing fear of a specific situation or situations. Obsessive compulsive disorder is where people experience obsessive unwanted thoughts causing anxiety, which can only be relieved by performing specific tasks. OCD sufferers can feel intense shame over their compulsions, which can make the problem worse. Post-traumatic stress disorder is a set of reactions developed in reaction to a traumatic event that threatened the life or safety of the individual or those around them. PTSD can cause a sufferer to feel emotionally numb and experience flashbacks. Panic disorder is where an individual experiences regular panic attacks without reason. Now, personality disorders include three clusters. Cluster A, which is often known as odd or eccentric behavior, which is made up of paranoid personality disorder, schizoid personality disorder, and schizotypal personality disorder. Cluster B, or unstable emotions and dramatic or impulsive behavior, include antisocial personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, and Cluster C, known as anxious or fearful illnesses, are avoidant personality disorder, obsessive compulsive personality disorder, dependent personality disorder. Now, paranoid personality disorder causes the sufferer to be suspicious and mistrustful of others, interpreting the motives of others as harmful, and they may be hostile or emotionally detached. Schizoid personality disorder gives the sufferer a lack of interest in social relationships and an unemotional response to social interactions. Schizotypal personality disorder gives the sufferer eccentric behavior, peculiar dress sense, unusual or bizarre thoughts and beliefs, discomfort in social settings, and difficulty forming close relationships. Antisocial personality disorder causes disregard for the law or the rights of others with lack of remorse. Histrionic personality disorder causes the sufferer to be highly emotional and dramatic and have an excessive need for attention and approval, and possible obsession with their appearance. Borderline personality disorder causes the sufferer to have major fear of abandonment issues, intense and unstable relationships, extreme emotional outbursts, deliberate self-harm or self-destructive behavior, and a fragile sense of self or identity. Narcissistic personality disorder gives the sufferer a pattern of inflated self-esteem, need for admiration, lack of empathy, and fantasies of success, power, or beauty. Avoidant personality disorder causes the sufferer to avoid social interactions, be very sensitive to negative judgment. They may be timid and socially isolated with feelings of inadequacy. Obsessive compulsive personality disorder causes sufferer to be preoccupied with rules, orderliness, and value work over other aspects of life. Be a perfectionist and have a need to be in control. It should not be confused with obsessive compulsive disorder. They are both different illnesses despite being similar. Dependent personality disorder causes the sufferer to have a fear of being alone and a need to be taken care of, difficulty separating from loved ones, or making independent decisions. Often they are submissive and can even be tolerant of abusive relationships. Psychotic disorders are severe illnesses that cause abnormal thinking and perceptions, loss of touch with reality, delusions, and hallucinations. Psychotic disorders include schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, schizophreniform disorder, brief psychotic disorder, delusional disorder, shared psychotic disorder, substance-induced psychosis, and paraphrenia. Now, schizophrenia causes a sufferer to experience hallucinations, delusions, confused thinking, abnormal motor behavior, loss of touch with reality, chaotic speech and beliefs, and apathy. There are also negative symptoms that are more persistent that include inability to experience pleasure or remember pleasurable events and lack of emotional expression. Now, I can tell you from experience that schizophrenia is pretty scary and confusing and pretty much totally indescribably bad. Schizoaffective disorder is believed to be a kind of schizophrenia. It's difficult to diagnose as symptoms are similar to bipolar and schizophrenia. It causes psychotic symptoms including loss of touch with reality, hallucinations, and delusions, manic symptoms including increased social, sexual, and work activities, rapid thoughts and speech, high self-esteem, and risky or impulsive behaviors, and depressive symptoms such as low motivation, fatigue, trouble concentrating, low self-esteem, suicidal thoughts, appetite loss, and insomnia. Now, schizophreniform disorder is diagnosed when symptoms of schizophrenia have been present for most of a 1-month period, but the signs of disruption are not present for the 6 months required for a schizophrenia diagnosis. Delusional disorder just effectively causes one or more non-bizarre delusions of thinking. In other words, the false belief that something can occur, the false belief of something occurring that can occur realistically with no other psychotic symptoms. For instance, they're constantly thinking their food is being poisoned or that they're being stalked. Now, shared psychotic disorder is a weird one. It's an illness that's shared by 2 or more people who have close emotional ties. Pretty much, it's when people take on the symptoms of someone they're close to who already has psychosis. Substance-induced psychosis, commonly called drug-induced psychosis, is where symptoms of psychosis are induced by the use or withdrawal of drugs or alcohol. And paraphrenia is characterized by the presence of delusions and hallucinations without the deterioration of intellect or personality common with psychosis. And there's eating disorders. Eating disorders are illnesses that affect a person's ability to or desire to eat, of which anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, and binge eating disorder are the most common. They aren't often thought about as a proper mental illness, even though they are prominent among adolescents and are quite serious illnesses. Anorexia is characterized by dangerously low body weight and body image distortion with an obsessive fear of gaining weight, resulting in the deprivation of food to the body. Bulimia is characterized by episodes of binge eating or consumption of abnormally large amounts of food in a short time, which are associated with a loss of control and immediately followed by feelings of guilt or shame, causing the sufferer to compensate by purging or self-induced vomiting, fasting, over-exercising, and or misuse of laxatives and other such things like that. And binge eating disorder, which is characterized by recurrent and frequent consumption of excessive amounts of food, often when not hungry. Now, this is very important. Mental illnesses are never a joke. They are very serious illnesses. Making fun of someone for suffering a mental illness or lying about experiencing one is wrong, pointless, and pretty tacky. Now, I'm in Australia, so I'm going to be using Australian statistics here, but there is no immunity against any mental illness. Not everyone will develop one, but anyone can. At least 45% of people aged 16 to 85 will experience an anxiety, mood disorder, or substance addiction problem. And that figure will most likely be far higher when you include young people and other illnesses. At least 20% of Australian adults are affected by mental illness every year. Some people having multiple diagnoses, and many people going on undiagnosed. There are roughly 690,000 Australians living with a complex mental illness, and if you add the inclusion of families, friends, and partners who that mental illness will also affect, you're looking at an estimated 4 million Aussies affected by mental illness. That's pretty much 20% of Australians. 26.4% of Australians aged 16 to 24 had experienced mental illness in the last year, and suicide is a leading cause of death in young Australians. In 2012, more young Australians died by suicide than in car accidents in 15 to 24-year-olds, with 324 people dying of suicide and 198 dying in car accidents. Evidence also shows that 50% of all lifetime mental illnesses start by the age of 14 and 75% by age 24. 1 in 7 children aged 4 to 17 have experienced a mental illness in their life. Mental illnesses are serious problems with no definitive causes. The likelihood of developing a mental illness is influenced by a combination of factors including genetic, neurological, developmental, environmental, socioeconomic, cultural, life experiences, and other factors. Now, I myself am a sufferer of mental illnesses. I've been diagnosed with major depression disorder, social anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and schizophrenia, with a possible diagnosis of borderline personality disorder. Not a possible diagnosis, with the possibility of borderline personality disorder also affecting me. And I've also previously suffered from bulimia between the ages of 14 and 16. Now, if you or someone you know shows signs of having a mental illness, take it seriously, get professional help and or advice as soon as possible. In the description of this video, there will be, alongside links to information about several mental illnesses, but there will be numbers for contacting mental health advice and care services for Australia, US, Canada, UK and Europe. Much love from Pants a Punk. I'm out.